In mid-century Pittsburgh, the steel industry was a sprawling, unstoppable economic juggernaut. But when a severe recession hit, that momentum vanished. The Jones and Laughlin steel firm was forced to lay off 4,000 workers. One veteran executive watched his life's work dissolve. After 27 years at the plant, he was just 3 years shy of his retirement, and suddenly his pension and livelihood were at the mercy of a corporate spreadsheet. The environment he had navigated for decades was transformed. The industrial roar of furnaces was replaced by a frightening silence echoing toward his office. Like most people facing a crisis, he looked at these external factors, the sudden layoffs, the severe recession, the empty halls, and accepted them as the final word on his future. But a friend who visited him refused to validate those fears. Instead of offering sympathy, she proposed a psychological experiment, a silent internal intervention intended to override the economic reality. Months later, the results were documented. The company abruptly pivoted, invested $13 million in modernization, and made a total reversal on its staffing. They recalled all 4,000 workers, effectively erasing the crisis. We're left with a question that defies standard logic. How could a shift in one person's private imagination force a massive corporation to change its physical course? The answer comes from the mystic Neville Goddard, who argued that the human imagination is the literal architect of the physical universe. He pointed out that every object we touch was once an invisible thought. The buildings we live in, the clothes we wear, even the machines we sent to the lunar surface, all of it began as an act of imagination before it was executed in matter. Goddard's central rule for changing a situation is to flatly ignore the facts provided by your physical senses. He viewed logical reason as a doubter that keeps the mind tethered to the current problem. By accepting physical reality as a fixed, unchangeable force, we stay trapped. But if we view the current state of the world as merely a shadow of past thoughts, reality becomes surprisingly malleable. To reverse the executive's crisis, the friend used a technique Goddard called the subjective appropriation of the objective hope. This begins with a total distortion of time. Rather than hoping for a better future, she looked at the crisis as if it had already happened years ago. She told him, "I will remember when you were afraid," mentally placing the problem in the past tense. This process requires moving beyond abstract thought into high-resolution sensory immersion. The mind must feel the specific objects of its desire to bypass the brain's natural skepticism. Imagine a baseball. Feel its raised seams. Switch to the smooth texture of silk. Mastering these sensations is key. The friend applied this, vividly feeling the weight of a trade paper's pages as she read a glowing article about his success. She then moved to catch the mood, adopting the exact emotional and physical state she would feel if his job security were a confirmed fact. Goddard's theory is that by maintaining this internal sensory state, the mind stops reacting to the external world and begins to act as a cause, eventually forcing the physical environment to align with the new internal blueprint. The confirmation eventually manifested exactly as visualized. A 2-page magazine spread celebrating the man's career was published and delivered to her. Soon after, the investment was finalized, and the mill's massive machinery came roaring back to life, ending the period of silence. Goddard noted a recurring irony here. Even after witnessing this precise sequence of events, the executive dismissed it as a coincidence, claiming the company's reversal would have happened anyway. We are conditioned to search for external reasons, economic cycles, or corporate decisions, while remaining blind to the internal state that preceded those changes. This suggests a shift in how we view identity. What we often label as God or fate is, in this view, the I am, the awareness and imagination residing within every individual. Most people externalize their power, looking towards historical texts or outside symbols for help, rather than recognizing that their own consciousness is the creative force. You can test this by refusing to let your current circumstances dictate your internal mood. Choose the state of being you desire right now. In the silence of your mind, assume the feeling of that wish as if it were already true. When you stabilize that internal state and catch the mood of the end, the physical world has no option but to rearrange itself to reflect your imagination.